Welcome on into the Wolverine Recruiting Show. Clayton Safey here with EJ Holland and Tim Verghese. We're going to break down the latest in the Michigan football recruiting world. We'll get an update on a top target here in just a second. But obviously, what everybody's talking about, Jim Harbaugh, his situation, NFL rumors flying all over the place, but he is still business as usual, as we continued to talk about over the last couple of weeks on the recruiting trail here during this period where coaches are able to go out, visit schools. Harbaugh's doing squats down at Jesuit down there in Tampa in the weight room. He is connecting with coaches from all across the country. Looks like he made a swing through the South. The assistant coaches are on the road as well. EJ, what is the latest from Jim Harbaugh and his travels?
Yeah, I mean, Harbaugh is operating business as usual, which has been his mindset. NFL rumors are still flying around. Recruits are obviously seeing that on social media, but Harbaugh is kind of blocking out the noise and just going out on the recruiting trail and working as hard as he's ever worked, both recruiting and I guess physically in the weight room. So we'll see. We'll see how it all turns out, with the NFL stuff. But again, right now, from a pure recruiting perspective, I feel like Michigan has done a really good job of hitting the trail hard, and Harbaugh's leading the way with that. He was in Alabama seeing Deuce Spurlock, Michigan's 2022 linebacker signee, saw a couple of big-time targets there, made his way over to Jacksonville and saw several elite targets in the area there, as well as 2022 defensive back signee Damani Dent. Then he made his way even further south to Tampa and saw quite a few guys there. Now I believe he took the first flight this morning out to Washington, D.C., so he's in the DMV. A lot of offers flying out in that area as well. So, yeah, Harbaugh's doing his job. He's recruiting as hard as he's ever recruited, so nothing really new to report in terms of, the NFL rumors and things like that from a recruiting perspective. It's the same old Harbaugh.
Yeah, and, I think it's important, obviously, that he's doing this. At the same time, he would be doing this even if he were leaving. And I don't think he has his mind made up, from all accounts. He doesn't have an offer on the table. And, that would potentially – he would have interest in that potentially, but not necessarily take it. But he would work his job until it's not his job anymore. That's just kind of the way he operates. But from a Michigan standpoint, if he is staying, which seems like the most likely thing, it's good that he's obviously making a dent on the recruiting trail, making a big impact. And speaking of that, Tim, let's talk about Jaleel Hurley, the 4-star 2023 corner, number 26 player, according to On3, the number 4 corner in the country as well. Looks like he delayed a decision. Give us the latest on him.
Yeah, so bit of a positive development for Michigan this week. So Michigan was in Jaleel Hurley's top school, still is in Jaleel Hurley's top school, but all indications pointed to he had a decision planned for the 22nd, and his all indications pointed to he was going to commit to in-state Alabama. Earlier this week, Harbaugh visited Florence High School where Hurley goes. And, pretty much within a couple hours after Harbaugh visited, Hurley announced he'd be postponing his decision to a later date to be determined, which is a very positive thing for Michigan. Michigan is pushing hard. Again, he's the number 2 corner in the country, going to be a 5-star when it's all said and done. So this is a high priority target for Michigan. And to be able to for him to push his decision says a lot about where Michigan stands in his recruitment, the type of pitch Harbaugh gave, and Steve Clinkscale went through and visited himself later in the week. So, Michigan's going all out to try and flip Hurley. At the end of the day, he still may land at Alabama. It's Alabama. He's an in-state kid. And, Alabama's Alabama. But, Michigan's doing a really good job. Michigan's pushing hard. And this is a really positive development for a guy that we just presumed was going to come off the board this week. And now he's still, in the air.
Let's move along and finish with Joel Starlings, who is no longer in Michigan's class of 2023. He decides to decommit, reopen things a little bit. 4-star defensive lineman there, the number 219 player on the On3 consensus. EJ, give us a little insight into what went down here.
Yeah, Joel Starlings is the guy that committed I believe around December when Michigan was getting those, or November when Michigan was getting those commitments rolling in 2023. But he was always such a wishy-washy type of commitment. I guess he committed, and then a week later he posted that he was 1,000% open to other schools, which is never really a good sign. And then
Does he know what the word commitment means?
I don't know,
Not
but then
ripping on the kid.
he did tweet out some sad face emojis and all types of, it was like a weekly ordeal. It was kind of like, oh, we're on Joel Starling's decommit watch, so he finally decommitted. But to, I guess, again, we're not ripping on the kid. To look at the whole situation, I mean, originally he was recruited by Sean Nua and Courtney Morgan. Courtney Morgan was actually the first one that really identified him and got contact rolling for Michigan. And then Sean Nua also got heavily involved, and they hosted him for the game against Ohio State, and they obviously earned his commitment. But Nua's no longer with the program. Morgan's no longer with the program. So I think this was an opportune time for him to decommit. And it's better that it happened now than later in the cycle. Now Michigan can readjust its nose board with Mike Elston on board. I'm sure they'll take a look at some different prospects at the position, might see a couple offers go out here before the end of the dead period. But this is one where, Starlings was highly rated. He was an on 300 prospect. He was a big 300-pound nose, but at the same time, Michigan did really well last cycle, landing Kenneth Grant. There's some really highly touted nose prospects on their radar right now, including Jordan Hall, who Michigan saw in Jacksonville this week. So yeah, I think it's so early that it's not really a loss. Plus, we always felt like this was a possibility anyway. So like I said, timing works out in Michigan's favor. Now they can move on, and Starlings can move on to his other schools in his recruitment.
And again, he's 1,000% open. What would you say the sting factor there is between a 1 and a 10 scale?
Probably just a 3. I mean, just because we kind of knew it was going to come at some point, and the changes and the fact that it's so early in the cycle, there's other nose prospects high on the board. So I don't think it's too big of a deal for Michigan. It was nice to see the Wolverines pick up a guy in Virginia. They are going to continue to hit that state hard, as well as the DMV as a whole, up into Washington, D.C., where Harbaugh is today. But yeah, I think they're going to find some other prospect. Michigan will be just fine.
Sounds good. All right. Well, that is our show for today. Visit us over at thewolverine.com. Keep it locked there. $1 for an entire year of premium access. And we'll see everyone next time.